My name is Mazen Kurdy. I am the founder and CEO of StyleNile.com. We are an online marketplace that tech enables independent multi-brand luxury fashion boutiques to sell their products throughout the world. We help them curate items and sell to shoppers that are unable to find those products. Primarily, we are focusing more and more on overstock. There's several reasons for that I hope to go into. I'm really looking forward to sharing some learnings here, and I look forward to being a part of this. So, starting off, as I mentioned, StyleMyle is an online marketplace, and where we help is to help boutiques curate their inventory towards shoppers that are all over the world. So, primarily in the luxury fashion space, what's happening is you have brands that take years and years of work, blood, sweat, and tears to create brand equity, their brand DNA. And their biggest sales channel is wholesale. And what they do is they sell to independent multi-brand luxury boutiques. Now, those boutiques have limited physical space and they sell locally in their own areas. If they do sell online, it's not much, and often it cannibalizes on their local clientele. And so what the challenge is being able to sell all of that inventory and then not returning it. And that's what often happens, leading to overstock. And so it's a nightmare for brands. They have to take back inventory. And I'm sure you've read articles where they take that inventory, they incinerate it, they put it into landfills, they try to give it away. It's really terrible for the balance sheets. And from a sustainability perspective, I really think it's even worse. So you have so much effort taking place from these brands where they are creating their products, oftentimes in emerging markets, whether it's the dyeing process, sourcing the leathers, all the way through to marketing, logistics, shipping, fulfillment, customer service, and then having to send that product back and eventually destroying it. And this can be watches, whether it's metals, as I said, the leathers before. They try to recycle oftentimes, but it's limited. So particularly these are high priced items. They need to find a home, and hopefully that home will keep that product for some time. So in terms of our mission, it's really helping being, another channel for these independent multi-brand luxury boutiques, and from a sustainability standpoint, allowing these brands to keep up their DNA and allowing these brands the ability, not to resort to selling their products at high discounted prices, which oftentimes happens. And these brands at the end of the day do not want to see their products on Amazon and or similar types of sites. So let's jump right into this. I hope that gives you a bit of background in terms of what we do, in terms of our mission, in terms of our challenge when we wanted to start this, right? So we were looking at creating a marketplace. Now, how do you create a marketplace? So I'm the founder. I have a business background, marketing background. I did not have a tech background. And our tech person had, I would say, really a mid-level skill set at best. And so what we were looking at doing is finding various companies, speaking with them, getting some information. And as you go through that, every company that you speak with is going to look at pushing their own off-the-shelf solution. So, there's dozens of solutions out there. There's new ones launched practically every month. And what we wanted, really our key factor in terms of what we were looking for, is a long-term play, a long-term strategy, not to be limited. And we wanted to have the flexibility of literally doing almost anything with our marketplace, both on the back end and the front end. And so, of course, if you pick that right solution, it allows you to launch your marketplace fast if you have the right skill set, which helps you then to learn about your audience. And if you pick the wrong one, well, you're going to be, really months into this before you figure out that you're onto the wrong path. And so for us, really what we looked at was, we focused on the software. We focused on the flexibility of the software. We were focusing on our business model and what we thought it would look like, years down the line. And I think that's a little bit crazy, because what you really should be doing is just put together, as they say, the most basic, MVP, and see if that works. In our case, we believed in what we were doing. We didn't want to do that, despite probably being told that several times, and we wanted to really create something longer term. And so other factors that we looked at was, services included in the software, and then, of course, just sort of the long-term scalability. Was this something that we could use now and we had to, upgrade later on? And so over time, what we saw was that there wasn't any single off-the-shelf software solution that handled everything that we wanted. Whenever we spoke with a firm, they would tell us, sure, we can do everything. And then when we really got down to the specifics, we would see limitations, whether it was from a front-end perspective and more particularly a back-end perspective. And so that's really where we had our oh crap moment, because we saw that there were relatively few options and nothing really that we found as a solution. And what we really came about with from that, and what everyone knows, marketplaces are not easy, not from building them, not from coming up with the products that you want to sell, not from finding your consumers, your shoppers. It's really difficult. And that's basically what led us to Spree. I had worked in various fields before, and Ruby kept coming up. I would say in the, let's say, early 2000s, and that led me to start looking at Ruby again. And so, in terms of that, SpreeConf really came up. And what I would say is that led us to a long learning process. And that learning process was quite important because we were able to learn as we were using Spree. It wasn't something like we picked up an off-the-shelf solution and we just learned that solution, right? So they have 100 features, let's say, and then your job really would be to just learn those features. In our case, we actually had a base set of features, and we started thinking, what features would our shoppers want? We started looking at competition at other sites. What do they offer? And what I can say was the best part of that was, so we sort of won on two sides. On the one side, we learned as we went through this, and on the other side, we really had that flexibility. We weren't set with a specific set of solutions that we had to offer to our clients, and then we couldn't offer anything else. So coming into really why then we decided on Spree was because we saw that we needed that flexibility. We wanted to be able to create, practically any feature that we wanted. Every software has limitations, but in the case of Spree, it's really quite open. We had seen other sites that we knew of that at certain points in time used off-the-shelf solutions or used another software, and at a certain point in time, they had to switch over. Now, particularly in our case, we work with independent multi-brand boutiques, and those are often mom-and-pop type, shops. And so when you look at it, questions that came up for us was, what type of products were we going to sell? And how were we going to connect with those boutiques? Oftentimes, those boutiques use, things like WordPress, for example. They buy their own kind of regional or local softwares, off-the-shelf solutions to sell their products on their own sites. And we had to be able to integrate with those boutiques. That was the only way that we were going to be successful as a curated marketplace. And if we set up the wrong one on our end, well, sites oftentimes show that they have plugins and that sort of thing, but the reality is they don't work very well. And so we focused on building this site and building this platform, and it's really become the ideal solution for us. So the key focus here with Spree is that you're flexible in doing this. You can continue to develop your site as you go along, as the business needs come about. And so that was something that was really interesting on our end. And something else is really the extension, right, of the marketplace. So building a successful online marketplace, it's a process, right? It's not a single project. So I think in terms of our first iteration, it probably took us 8 months. And by the time we finished in that 8-month period, again, at a mid-level, at a mid-level to junior even level developer tech expertise, we realized, hey guys, guess what? We need to do this again. And so it probably took us another 6 months then to rebuild the site in the way that we wanted, so that we could handle large volumes, so that we could integrate with those different boutiques, and so that we didn't have these limitations. And, I would say on our end, you don't want to do that the first time around if you know any better. So we did. it has worked out for us great because we've really learned along the way, and thankfully we were able to continue as a business along the way as well. The initial launch of your platform is just the beginning, really. After the launch, once you get data, once you're talking to your users, you're looking at your analytics, that's when you start to adapt your platform. This means that your software needs to be adaptable. And had we taken another solution, um, that would have been great for the beginning, but then we'd be stuck really with what we would consider then an MVP. It wouldn't be something that we could adapt later on to what we needed. So I think that was quite important for us and really a core. And it's really due to the unique features, right, of any site, whatever the business that you're in. Your marketplace vendor, let's say, if you pick one, isn't going to provide that out of the box. They don't know whether you're in the car business or in the fashion business or in the tech space, or selling a service. Building a new platform from scratch is something that I would say is an option. It takes time and money. You want to focus on growth as soon as you can, but if you don't have the tools right to be able to focus on that growth, you're going to be limited, and it's going to be difficult. So, in terms of, let me just move us over. Yeah, in terms of really, I would say the challenge in terms of the team and in terms of the timeline, those are key aspects that you want to look at well in advance. Make sure that your team is tested, and has some previous experience, because that will really bring the cost down. At the end of the day, you have a runway, you have costs. You want to be able to do this correctly from the beginning. Um, and again, picking the wrong software is not going to help in doing that. It's a big mistake. Oftentimes, it'll cause you to fail. And as we know in the startup world, you want to fail as fast and as often as possible and be able to move ahead. So I would highly consider that. Something else is you want to really make sure that you're aligned. So if you are picking a specific type of product or service to sell, and you pick a solution and you pick the wrong solution, if it's not aligned with what you're doing, the tech and the services, really power your entire business. And so you want to make sure that that's aligned with what you're doing. Um, so that's really a huge part of it. And then I think on top of that, there are a few very large players out there today, not to name any names, but they offer you all sorts of tech solutions. And in the case of Spree, let's say, you will also have those offerings and the flexibility. Versus if you pick them, you will have less flexibility. You may have quite a few of those solutions, but not in exactly the way that you want to do it. And if you look, some of the biggest players in the world today, right? They're not using off-the-shelf solutions. They've built out their own softwares. They've built out their own platforms. It's taken time. Um, you know, it's really, for us, it was a no-brainer, because at some point in time we would have had to switch. And so, regardless, if you're not technical, you're going to need a person to be that tech person. You're going to need your CTO profile to be in there and help you, really put in the flexibility in terms of what you need so that you can obtain your customers. At the end of the day, there are lots of vendors that, we were offered lots of trial periods with our vendors, and we could see that, again, while they were pushing all of their solutions, we would find some limitations. And that's why we decided to just bite the bullet and, do it by ourselves from scratch. So, specifically in terms of our team, as I mentioned, originally our tech team had, I would say, basic to mid-level experience, and that was a learning process in itself. After we went through and built out the majority of our site, and we were already in operation, we came in touch with Spark Solutions, and we had some correspondences, and yeah, it was quite refreshing to see that someone was on point. They knew what they were doing, and they would be able to help us, really to build out our site in the future. If we needed, additional functionalities. I think we, in a way, we did it the hard way because we just decided to do it out, build it out on our own. But we just had not been in touch with Spark Solutions previously. So there's a definite benefit to that. In terms of the overall outcome of this experience, What I would say is that we have been able to build out the best solution for us using Spree. And again, we are a fashion play, we are a long tail play, we are a luxury play. And so those key pillars, are quite specific. So there was no solution that we could see that would allow us to have the functionality that we needed to be able to create this platform and just immediately hit the market. And I'll give you, some examples. So again, I gave you some examples previously about the independent retailers using different technologies, old and new, and us being able to integrate with them. There's also, for example, various types of integrations for shipping your products, for logistics, for insurance. There's various tech related plugins, whether it's virtual changing rooms, voice activated. Really, it's unending. And all of that comes into play later on when you are looking to add those solutions. And the last thing you want to hear from your dev team is, oh, we're not really compatible with this, and it's going to take us 2 weeks to put this onto the site, to integrate this into the site and offer the solution to the shoppers. Particularly then, if you're looking at A/B testing, it can cause quite a bit of headaches. And so, you're really looking at the most streamlined, the easiest to get to type of solutions, and that comes again with the flexibility of Spree. So you're offered a very strong structure, a very strong base, and you're able to build off of that. And then, again, for us, we're quite pleased with what we've seen so far. We see no hesitation in adding functionalities now. We've got the right team in place. And we slowly see whether it's adding various payment gateways or other solutions that help us acquire more shoppers, that every time we do that, practically every time we add something, our shopper base increases because it's adding one extra portal for that shopper to be able to pull out their credit card and make a purchase. And that's really the key, with any, whether you're a D2C site or a marketplace such as ourselves, that's really the key to what you're doing is acquiring more shoppers. In terms of our tech stack, so on the front end, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Our back end, as I mentioned previously, is based on Ruby. From a framework perspective and structure, it's Spree. In terms of our servers, we used AWS, and then there are some other technologies as well. I won't go through and list them all, but just to mention a few: Capistrano, Redis Sidekick, and CloudFront. And something important to mention there, right, is the speed of your site. Just taking into account when you add all of these features onto the site, it does weigh the site down after some time. And with Spree, we have not seen that happen. As our customer base has grown, we've not seen that. And then, obviously when you get to certain sizes, when you get to certain scalability, take an example, you've got 20, 30, 40, 50,000 shoppers looking at your site all at one time. You have to have the structure. And you have to be confident in the structure that you've chosen, because the last thing you want to have is, things, little gremlins popping out, whether it's in your customer funnel, your payment gateway, baskets. There's all sorts of issues that can pop up. And if you have the right structure in place, your team is correct in terms of what they've done, you can really be successful and see the results of all of the hard work that you have put in. And let's say if you're using a lesser known site, well, you're really firmly reliant on them. And there's peace of mind in having control. I think if you're a smaller site, and I could be wrong, I'm happy to receive feedback on that. If you're a smaller site and you're relying on an off-the-shelf solution, and they're able to provide you with everything and you're able to wait for it, then that's fine. But in our case, we really need it to be, just in time. We need someone to be there to fix things. We can't afford to wait in our space. And as everyone knows, it takes you so long and so much work, hard work, dedication, and as I said before, blood, sweat, and tears to acquire a shopper. The last thing you want to have happen is for some technical error to cause you to lose that shopper, because getting them back is very challenging and it's quite difficult. And I'm sure we all know what that's like. In terms of, again, our approach, it's really an omni-channel approach, and it's one that allows us to use various technologies, whether on the brick and mortar side, in our retail partner boutiques, and or on the site. And what we have seen time and time again, very recently, I can give you an example of a boutique partner that reached out to us. They wanted to work with us. They were using such an old technology that, practically speaking, I think really any new platform would just say, hey guys, it's you that needs to update. And in our case, we looked at that. We also offer a white label solution where we can really get them up to speed. But tech is not their friend. Let's just say that they're an older store. They've been around for a long time, and they were interested in just seeing what could they do keeping their technology. And I think by using Ruby, we were able to create a solution for them that allowed us to partner with them, onboard their inventory. I mean, I was even surprised, frankly, but we were able to onboard their inventory and allow them to continue using, this old, what we would probably consider an outdated system, but it's still working. And that really minimized the pain on their end and allowed us to continue operating on our side. And it's been a success overall. So the result overall of our journey in this, in terms of picking the right software, putting the right team together, being able to structure this and have the flexibility to continue what we're doing, with Spree, has been quite successful. And as I mentioned from the last example, it's allowed us to continue even, in very challenging circumstances where the reality is, certain partners of ours should change what they're doing, but we're still able to work with them. And that brings us much success. So I hope this has been helpful. Thank you guys for listening. I'm pleased to take any feedback. You can reach out to me at mazen@stylemyle.com, and hope to be in contact. And I wish you much success on the rest of this event. Thanks again. Bye-bye.